You have to drink tea for the right reasons though. Welcome my dear friends. This is a new video in the Daoland program, and today is going to be a difficult video for many people. There's going to be topics in this video that you might find confusing because of what is going around in the world when we talk about Chinese alchemy and Chinese medicine. This video is important when you are practicing Chinese medicine, and this video is important when you are practicing neidan meditation, tai chi chuan, kung fu, and so forth and so forth. So this is a very large audience which is directed to this, because all these topics, according to the history of Chinese medicine, are all interrelated with each other. I know that in the modern time everybody has separated everything. So you do acupuncture, or you do massage, or you do herbal medicine, or you do neidan practice, or you do tai chi chuan, or maybe a combination of neidan and tai chi chuan when you have been going to Wudang. But in reality, all these things are all related, and we're going to talk about that today, because we are going to talk about San Yuan practice. San Yuan alchemy is a construct of a variety of methods in immortalism, in Taoism. Maybe you have seen my videos on the different levels of immortality. This video actually hooks into that part. So if you're interested in that, go look at my wilderness sequence. I will give you a link below. You can sign up, and then you can see this whole sequence about the idea of wilderness in Taoism and how that sinks in. When you are not yet a member of this channel, I'm going to make more videos about this topic, specifically in the relationship between Chinese medicine, tai chi chuan, and alchemy. Also, I'm going to dedicate specific videos to alchemy for women, of which I know there are very tiny specks present on the internet. So this has to become very important for a lot of people, because I do know that a lot of women nowadays practice these things. And in China, traditionally, women were not allowed to practice any of these things except in secret. So a lot of women, they went to live in a monastery to learn these things. But unfortunately, there is not yet anybody teaching about these things in public. So this is going to be the first one in a sequence that is going to explain San Yuan alchemy, later on Dan Dao, and women alchemy, female alchemy, women alchemy for women. I had a fortunate chance to study these things both from the male perspective and on the theoretical front for the study for alchemy for women, because I have known several female alchemists in the past in China and also outside China, and as a result of that I can very clearly also show the difference between the two. But for today, now we are going to talk about San Yuan meditation, and there are a few things I have to tell you about myself too. First of all, I did roll into the studies more or less by accident. I did practice Qigong, and I did practice yoga, and I did practice meditation and so on, because I felt I had to do something as a compensation for the fact that I had a kidney disease. And these things were interesting, and I accidentally rolled into the studies because of meeting several people. First, there was a teacher that I was sent to by one of my Tai Chi teachers. I found that I was a little bit more than average interested in these kind of things, and there for the first time I could experience Yang Qi. And at the moment when I came there, I was getting really fanatical, but then because of that I was meeting with a friend normally in the Vondelpark in Amsterdam, and we were going to practice together, and then one day he was not there. I was practicing by myself, and then I run into this guy, older, middle-aged, I thought that time older guy, middle-aged guy from China, and he said like, what you do is nice, but it is not sufficient, you're not going to make it. And I was like, okay, what do you talk about? And as a result of that, we got to talk. I got invited with his house, and I learned the foundations of the things that I'm now also going to teach about. And later on, when I went to Wudang on his advice, I went to Wudang. I stayed there for 13 years as part of a Taoist community. I talked with a lot of different kind of Taoists in different parts of China, especially, of course, in Wudang. I did read a lot of different kind of classics. I collected the Tao Tang and other texts, and I'm currently busy translating a lot of materials which help me to finalize my Daoland story. Because I teach all these things too already for years. But very slowly, very gradually, I got more and more resources available to clarify these things. So this is the one thing. I came here accidentally. The second part is I'm so happy that I really got here accidentally, because this has completely transformed my life, and it has helped me to resolve the obstacles in my life, such as the kidney disease I mentioned before, because I was predicted to die at about 40, 45, and there are some very famous examples here in the Netherlands who have got kidney disease, and I will make another video one time about that kind of things. But I was predicted to die at about 40, 45, and on hindsight, I realized, like, hey, actually I got past my prediction. I'm now 55 about, and I'm still alive. That is due to the methods I'm going to talk with you about today, and that I normally also talk about, but more in another kind of context. And now I'm going to specifically focus on that, because I would like you to realize, like, oh, actually I am really keenly interested in these kind of things. I need this kind of information, and as a result of that, this is also then of course an open invitation to enter the Daoist program on one level or another, to help you overcome your obstacles, so that you can understand what you need to overcome. And we're going to talk about these things today. So today is going to be focused a little bit on conquering of obstacles, but we are going to talk primarily about the levels that you need to get through, and the kind of influences that you need to get through to get to that point. So this is the kind of long introduction, but I do hope that it helps you to appreciate the content of this video more. I advise you to follow it all the way to the end. Do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel to get the other videos, or to sign up for our Patreon, or to join our program in the SAM card. And as a result of that, I am hoping that I can contribute to your life and share this with you in a proper way, like I contributed from that in my life, and that's a very important part. So, chin chin, this is my tea. Remind you, ritual is in the way how you do it, not in the accessories of your ritual. That's a very important part, lesson I got from neidan practice. So, serving you, that's a ritual. Doing all the things around it with floating in water and cups and stuff like this is just circus. It's not important. So, let's have a start. When we look at these kind of things, we can say that San Yuan is a constellation of alchemical methods. And these constellations of alchemical methods, I have made notes. I'm going to stick to them to make sure that I don't get confused by myself, because there's so much to say about these things. But when we look at this constellation of methods, we see that there is this merging and diversification between Chinese Buddhism and Taoism. Taoism, of course, is the original way of looking at things in China, and we can call this basically the basics of Chinese cultural science. And Buddhism came from outside and influenced Buddhism to a particular kind of degree because of its way of thinking about the mind and about what should happen to you because of the resolving of karmic obstacles. That really enriched also Taoist thought. But the foundations of Taoist thought and its alchemy we find already in the Zhuangzi, and we find already in text even older than that in the Yin-Yang school, for instance. We're going to talk about these things eventually. There's a lot to know about it, but the main foundational material for all these things we find in the Huangdi Neijing. Huangdi Neijing is used by all Chinese medicine practitioners. If you haven't read it, you have to go read it. I can advise you to take the translation from Paul Umschult, which there are things that, of course, like everybody else, disagrees with each other. I also disagree with, but it is so far the best translation that we have. It is too much of a work to go translate it by myself, although I should maybe do it because some of the outcomes will be very different, and also because of my relationship with neidan and with Kung Fu, I can comment on it in a different kind of way, and I am planning to do at least a few videos about these differences too. When you're practicing Tai Chi Chuan, Huangdi Neijing is elementary, especially when we talk about the neidan Tai Chi Chuan part. When you talk about the Yang style or Chen style, Wu style, and so forth and so on, of course they talk about certain aspects, but it doesn't go as deep as when you go really do the Taoist thing. When you just go to Wudang for a while to learn some forms, or to go give some classes and to become like a martial artist, or to start a business as a healer or a Yang Shen practitioner, then still a lot of things are missing in your studies, and as a result of that, you might practice what in Taoism is called false Taoism. And false Taoism is based on the idea that you don't get your language straight. So maybe this video can help you too in getting your language straight, and as a result of that, get you into renewing your relationship with Chinese medicine, Tai Chi, Kung Fu, and so on and so forth. That is a very important part. That is one of my goals in this video. Because at this moment, the study of these kind of things are colored by Westernization, both in China and in the West, of course. We cannot avoid that. We call ourselves attracted and influenced by Chinese culture, but in reality, we would like to make it adaptable to what we already know. This is our opinionated Western way of thinking. We colonize everything. But what do I say is Buddhism and Taoism, they both bridge and separate each other, and in the Wudang culture, where I am then of course part of, you see this very clearly in the thoughts of both Zhang Zhangfen as well as other thinkers from that area, and also my teachers. They help me understand an idea of Zhang Zhangfen, that all cultures, they have something to contribute, but you have to specialize in one particular culture to be able to understand the other ones. So when you study Buddhism, you can understand Taoism from a Buddhist perspective. That means you don't understand Taoism, but you understand it from a Buddhist perspective. If you study Taoism, you can understand Buddhism from a Taoist perspective, not from a Buddhist perspective. And then in the same way, you can understand Western science and Christianity and Islam, all these kind of things you can understand from a Western perspective. Now, at this moment, I'm going to talk to you from the perspective of Taoism. And that means I'm trying to clarify some things for you, like what they mean, but I do not try to make it easy for you, as I never do in my videos, as I am being told many, many times, because I firmly believe that if I make things easy for you, you are not going to understand. Simplification is usually the end of understanding. So never do anything simplified. When somebody is giving you something into a simplified version, San Yuan teaching shows you it doesn't work. Even though the solutions that we're looking for are simple, the understanding of it is very often very complicated and can take a long time before it gets to that point. This thing is one of the prime teachings of San Yuan Taoism. And in that context, we have to understand that the beginning of all these kind of things have to do with re-establishing what is called the unity between life and destiny. And for this, you have to understand that, and that's what my master Liu did teach me when I was studying with this man in Amsterdam. When he explained these things to me, he said to me very simply, when we are born into a life of pain, and when we look at the education that we get, we are being taught how to deal with the pain and how to escape the pain. So as a result of that, our society is based on what you can call the pleasure principle. And this pleasure principle helps us to get addicted to all kinds of methods that will have to make us forget about the pains that we are in. When we look at the Huangdi Neijing, it says actually in the first chapter, the first 2 chapters, they talk about these things. When you are looking at the pleasure aspects, you can see that we have a feeling that we find solutions in the pleasure principle, and as a result that we get into there, but once we get into there, we get confused. In our previous video about breath work, we already talked about that, and we said breath is poison. So this is something that if you've seen this video, absolutely important. The right way of breathing is a very important part. The right way of thinking and feeling is also very important in that sense, because the Huangdi Neijing says basically, okay, if you lose your way, then your body is going to break down. The Jing, which is called the Yang Jing, the coherence of your body is going to break down. And this is the beginning of confusion and the formation of pain, suffering, disease, and death. So there you go. The Buddhist teachings, they talk about that part. They talk about how do I escape this, and then they put that into a mental perspective, and they go towards the 12 different instruments, from the 8 spokes of the karmic wheel. There's 12 different levels of healing. In Taoism, we use more or less similar kind of theories because we took a lot of things from Buddhism in that sense. But we go the other way. We say, okay, we have to restore our moral nature. When we restore our moral nature, we get rid of our obstructions and our confusions, and we can start resolving all the obstructions because of getting morally sound. And as a result of that, we can not be stopped by our disappointments, and we cannot be seduced by pleasure principles, like for instance making money, becoming rich, becoming powerful and influential. All these kind of things, they cannot stop you. For one reason, I am unhappy that my channel is not a bigger channel, because it doesn't help me to make better videos, because there's not enough funds. On the other hand, it shows for me my persistence and my investment in the importance of my own trajectory, through which I want to share this with you and make sure that you get to know this. This is a very important part. So for Taoists, being skeptical about your motivations is a very important part, and making sure that you stay on the path of poverty, in that sense, yes, to make sure that you do not start pursuing wealth, pleasure, and so on and so forth. This is a very important part. As soon as you can afford too much, you're going to be in danger of being seduced by all kind of stuff, and that is what you take with you in the things that you teach. So in Chinese medicine also, the reason what you see why people are sick, the root cause is usually this breakdown of their moral principles. So as a part of Chinese medicine, teaching people the right way of living is a very important part. And in Tai Chi Kung Fu, exactly the same, are distractions through which we cannot remember the moves, or through which we cannot remember how to do things, or what kind of things should be developed, or we cannot develop the movements in such a way that they start radiating this kind of a chi, which is the sign of our achievement. Then at that moment we can say, okay, things are a little bit lost. Oh, I just get a signal from somebody. Maybe you should tell a little bit more about your friend. My friend Leonard, who I was practicing with, actually is not relevant for the story. In relationship to Tai Chi Chuan, he was very much involved in Alice Bailey and Theosophic Society, what's his name, Kelly something, all kind of people who are more or less in a similar kind of trajectory. They were trying to understand Tai Chi Chuan from this westernized perspective, and as a result of that, I found, because of my study with my other teachers, that was very confusing and also not very helpful, because there were certain kind of things that they kept on solving with Western concepts like energy and stuff like this, which were at that time still relatively new terms, right? And there were not too many people talking about these kind of things yet at that moment. They were new concepts, just invented by New Age movements, and as a result of that, they still were gathering meanings, but also gathering confusions, and now everybody in the whole world is stuck with this kind of thing because everybody was so enthusiastic about it. So that's the only relevance that it has for the story. My kidney problems relate also to that, and as a result of that, we were probably, because of sharing a faith of probably going to die young, we were very much invested in our friendship and our studies. One major thing that I learned from all these things in that time when I was learning is that it is the way of life that we have from the education we get from our parents and the choices that we make, that we get more and more fragmented, and we attract basically all kinds of things. And what Liu explained me, and what the neidan text also explained to me, is that at the moment when we live like that, we are bound by our circumstances. So our obstacles determine our faith, and that means that what is being said, this is the will of heaven or the will of God. So all our problems that we have, this is our circumstances. So God is our circumstances. So God is not a being or a holy something, but it is our limitations. So God is in the limitations. That's a very important part of the neidan principle. And what they say is that by freeing ourselves from the context of our life, by getting over our obstacles, we actually become self-determined. And instead of becoming a fatalist follower of the will of heaven, we become at a certain point free from a deterministic worldview, and as a result of that, we are going to be merging our life and our destiny. That means that through our practice we start to realize there's only one task that we have in life, and that is to live. And that means that making sure that we stay alive, this is our destiny, and this merges with our life. So our life tasks are like that. So me making these videos for you helps me to root deeper in that Tao, and as a result of that I can get further than that. What is relevant for that is that in this seeking of this overcoming of the obstacles, we quickly can determine that we are stuck in a lot of addictions, physical hindrances, strange habits, and so on. And whether these are diseases, whether they are physical deformations, whether they are sexual obsessions, or whether they are drugs or medications, or our emotions, all these kind of things, they can all be overcome. So that means that there is no reason to be hindered by these obstacles to become an immortal. Then when we talk about the San Yuan, we talk about basically the 3 Yuan. San means 3, so that's why Yuan means firsts, the 3 firsts. So these are the 3 prime principles, the 3 prime directives, as they would say in Star Trek. At the moment, when we talk about the first one, the Tian Yuan, this is what we can call the heavenly prime directive, or the heavenly first. So at the moment when we talk about the heavenly first, we are talking about the transition of being a mortal being towards a immortal being. And then we also have to make the transition from a physical corporeal being towards a non-corporeal spiritual being. So the Tian Yuan is to get you there. When we talk about the middle one, that's called Ren Yuan, and human prime directive, then we talk about what you can primarily call 2 parts, namely on the one hand our sexual alchemy, you can say that our tantra, where we follow our pleasure principles, and whether we do that through sex, through work, through sports, through anything else like that, through which we get a kick and we get into a flow and we feel really great about all kind of things, then at that moment we are following what is called a false Tao. And I remember a good friend of mine in the Qingchen Mountains, and he was a professor at the religious university, the Daoist university, the Chinese university, where they were also teaching Taoism. And he was very knowledgeable about Taoism, but he said, my teachers, my Taoist teachers, they don't want to bring me past a certain kind of point. And the reason for that I found when he was practicing Tai Chi Chuan, he was really going very much into the feelings of it, and as a result of that, his Tai Chi Chuan was clearly a manifestation of a pleasure principle. A lot of people, they admired it for him, and there was definitely something to be learned in that, but in the San Yuan principle, this is going into the wrong direction. So as a result of that, his teachers refused to teach him past a certain point. I haven't spoken with him for a long time. I'm pretty sure that after we talked about it and we talked with several teachers, that he has found a way to overcome that, and as a result that he has been progressing on his path also. But it was a very difficult thing to learn, and as a Taoist, it is always very important to learn these kind of things, that your addictions are rooted in the seeking of pleasure as a form of escape from something else. And that means that, like we learn in the I Ching counselor course, that at the moment when you identify a problem, you have to understand its yang aspect and its yin aspect. The yang aspect, that is actually the action that you're undertaking, and the yin aspect is how it is shaping you, how it is shaping your bones, so to say. And in the alchemy principles, in the Tai Chi Chuan principles, Qigong, Daoyin, yoga, and medicine, it is all the same. You have to identify from every problem what is the action and what are the bones of it, because the action shapes the bones allows the action. So this is a very important part that we learn from alchemy. Yeah, so this is what is important. But the Ren Yuan, in that sense, is then an important aspect. The Ren Yuan and the Tian Yuan, they both root in the same principle, namely that you first have to build a foundation. This foundation is basically what our Daoland program is all about. The bachelor program, the Yangshan program, the health builder programs with Wudang fast Qigong, slow Qigong, Wei Qigong, all kind of practices, the bamboo Qigong for harmonizing your channels, The Tai Chi Chuan 13, the long form Tai Chi Chuan also similar like that. These are all to help you build these foundation things, and it means that the prime principle for that is the development of Jing, and that is not the Jing as the sperm of man or the stuff that is part of the menstrual cycle of women. No, because these things are too fragmentary. That would mean that a woman can only practice once a month and a man can practice every 3-4 days when his sperm is going to its peak. No, all these kind of things, these are false assumptions which have been created over time to root into the pleasure principles. So no, Jing is not a substance in your body. Jing is an action that you have, and that is a yang aspect. But in Tian Yuan, we say the foundation building is a yin, even though, well, that's a very complicated part to discuss right now. But so this foundation building is essential. So that means also when you go, like for instance, we mentioned in the Ren Yuan, when we practice medicine, or when you practice massage, or you practice acupuncture, say that is acupuncture, massage, when you practice Tai Chi Chuan, or when you practice Tantra, all these kind of things, they require you to first do a foundation. When I talk about that with students, they want to learn Tantra, but they don't want to learn the foundation. Then at that moment I'm saying, okay, good. The learning of Tantra is a practical one-on-one study. So that means that you have to go into a relationship with somebody who is experienced, but if you haven't done the foundation, that learning is going to be useless, because at that moment you will fall into the pleasure principle and you have to go through that route. So if a teacher allows you to go into this kind of relationship too early, then he's basically expecting you to work hard to work on that foundation. If you don't, then at that moment you will fall behind, and eventually there's going to be damage in your life, because that is what they say always with all this kind of practice. If you don't build a foundation, whatever you do that is actually from beyond the foundation, the higher levels, is just not going to work, because it is like building a house on a hill, but you're building it as if it is straight, but it actually at a certain point topples over and then contributes to your disease, death, and so on and so on. So that's a very important part. The third part, the Tiyuan, the first or the prime earth alchemy aspect, that is basically what we call a Waidan practice. So the Ren Yuan and the Tian Yuan, they are both allowing you to develop what is called Dantian from an inward perspective. In dual cultivation or Tantra, in that case, when you are involved in that kind of practice, then at that moment, because of that practice, you are developing an awareness of things which can, for instance, be used in ritual, but cannot be used to become an immortal, because then you have to become one immortal with two people, and as far as I know, that is going to be very difficult for most people to achieve, especially when they don't have a proper foundation. But in the Tiyuan, we see that the use of external materials is very important. First of all, it is important to understand that it is not possible to achieve anything in the Tian Yuan or in the Ren Yuan without also an aspect of Tiyuan, where Tian Yuan and Ren Yuan are connected through building the foundation. The Tiyuan is connected with the other three by providing the foundation of the material substances that we can ingest. So when we look at Tiyuan from the Tian Yuan perspectives, then we are talking about the ingestion of, for instance, minerals. And at the moment when we take these minerals and we are not invested in this Tian Yuan practice, then at that moment we will automatically become poisoned because of this kind of materials. That means that you have to be ready for these kind of stuffs to be able to ingest them. When you talk about the Ren Yuan practices, then we talk basically about what we can call nowadays Chinese medicine. This is the way how we use food as a foundation for our health. And at the moment when we take food as a foundation for our health, that is a very important part. The Tiyuan part is the herbal medicine part, where you take particular kind of metals, grasses, roots, trees, and so forth and so forth. You mingle all these things and you melt them and you produce them to create a particular kind of quality inside your body when you ingest them. But you have to be below a particular kind of level to be able to do that for healing purposes, but for the alchemical perspective, you need also to practice a form of internal cultivation, and that's the difficult part of all these kind of things. You need to have this internal cultivation. When you do not have this internal cultivation, you are not going to be able to complete that part, because you are poisoning yourself and you have to learn to direct that poison in a particular kind of way. And in the same kind of way, if you do not have the ingestion of particular kind of materials, the Chen Yuan and the Ren Yuan both will not serve you to get to that point. So at this moment, I think I have told you already a lot of things about these kind of things. I want to tell you one more thing, because I am, of course, a Wudang Xuan Wu Pai a practitioner, and one of the things that I learned about Zhang Xiangfen, the progenitor of Wudang Xuan Wu Pai, is that Zhang Xiangfen was basically the last who practiced all these three levels at the same time. So he is the last great master, you can say, from the past. And since that time, the material foundation for the Tiyuan has been, well, deteriorated, and because of the bad press that people get, because they died because of that method, like emperors and stuff like this, people do not believe in it anymore. But the reality is that because of their debased lifestyle, drinking wine, eating delicious meals, having promiscuous sex and so on, as a result of that, their bodies were degenerated in such a way that they could not handle these kind of things. So they were not right immortalist materials. And that means that, again, that pleasure principle is essential for achieving any kind of success in any of these levels. So I hope this is really helping you when you feel related to these kind of things, like, oh yeah, this is what I understand, this is what I'm missing in how I have been learning with my teacher, school, whatever kind of things. Just contact me, sign up for the program, or let's just talk about these kind of things and see if I can help you with some good advice and help you find your way. So I'm very thankful for you coming all the way to the end of this video. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of different kind of topics. Every year I have sort of a theme, and this year the neidan cultivation and the relationship with Chinese medicine, Kung Fu and so on is going to be my theme. I still have to finish a few things from the last year about the different age groups. That was a project that I started relatively late, but since my life and my destiny have merged, I do know how to finish things. But they take time. Make sure that you have a good life if you are not contacting me, and if you think you know people who might be interested in this video, you would help me a great deal by sharing this. If you are interested in the translated materials that I take my material from, then sign up for our Sifu guide. There's a lot of translated materials in there. There's now at this moment over almost 2,000 pages, and all these materials are freely available only for a few dollars or euros per month, and I look forward to see you there too. Thank you very much.